Welcome back for Hunter x Hunter Chapter 413 talk. There's a lot to cover today, so without preamble, let's dive right into this Halkenburg scene and try to understand exactly what is going on. Halkenburg, in Balsamico's body, has tied himself up as a precaution. This is worth going over quickly, just because it's been a year and a half. So the real Balsamico's soul is in this body with Halkenburg right now. Balsamico was in Halkenburg's body after getting swapped, and he swapped back in here after Halkenburg's body died. And now, control of this body switches between the two of them whenever the body falls asleep. Halkenburg would have lost control when Balsamico's soul entered, since the swapper always gets priority, but he basically manipulated the turn order by taking a sleeping pill just before his own body's death. So the body died, Balsamico swapped in, immediately fell asleep to the pill, control reverted to Halkenburg, and now he's got 10 hours worth of medicated sleep in which to act before Balsamico gets control back. So these restraints are in place because if Halkenburg were to swap out, that would leave Balsamico alone in his own body once again, and he would possibly resume control immediately, although maybe he would remain asleep because of the pill. I'm not sure if Halkenburg is sure about that, but better safe than sorry. And he's not at all certain that he'll be the one swapping when he fires Les Dissonances, because the swapper is chosen randomly. That scenario only has a 1 in 14 chance of obtaining. Most likely, one of these 13 supporters standing behind him will be the swapper instead, and their original body will collapse at once since the supporter will be conscious in the target's body, ensuring that the target is unconscious in the supporter's body. Same thing we saw the very first time when Sumidori swapped into Shikaku. Okay, so we get why he's tied up, it's in case he rolls the 1 in 14. Now, when I first read the chapter, I saw Halkenburg thinking an arrow has already been shot at my brother, and I assumed that this panel took place after the shot was fired. Voracious Drake's notes confirm that the kanji for first prince was used here, so when Halkenburg thinks my brother, he definitely means Benjamin. So, Halkenburg has just shot at Ben, this arrow on the next page is that same arrow in flight, and it should connect with Ben at any moment. But we don't see that happen. This is not a timing mix-up. Ben just heard the rumbling that happens before a Halkenburg shot, and this is the shot, yet nothing appears to hit him. So I considered some possibilities. One is that Halkenburg hit someone else by mistake in between him and Benjamin. Here's the map. It looks like in between room 1009 and 1001, there's a lot of people who could have been tagged in 1003, 1005, or 1007. Or it could hit someone else in Ben's room. Or Halkenburg did hit his target, but it didn't work, and Ben didn't even notice. Balsamico did hypothesize that Hulk's Spirit Beast wouldn't manifest an ability that could assassinate princes directly, right? That makes sense. Although it's not an ability that really kills anyone, it just swaps souls in between bodies, so maybe it would work. And that could be exactly the hypothesis Halkenburg wants to test. So, maybe he hit Ben and it did nothing, confirming it doesn't work, or maybe Ben wasn't a valid target and so the shot veered off course and hit someone else. Maybe it hit this guy. It's hard to say. And I was getting ready to chart out all these options and figure out which one I liked best. But, while I was rereading the chapter, I noticed something that I think turns all this speculation on its head, and that is the position of Halkenburg's hands. Let's look at chapter 382. Halkenburg's hands are in this position before he shoots the arrow, so we'll call it the ready to shoot position. Notice that he's got his left hand horizontal, pretty close to his chin. That's the hand he's using to draw the arrow back. After the arrow's been loosed, his position opens up and his left hand goes out to his side, nowhere near his chin. As an Olympic silver medalist in archery, Halkenburg should have these motions pretty locked in, so they happen the same way every time. But I believe in making sure, so let's check chapter 403 and see how he does it there. Okay, ready to shoot position, left hand close to the chin, still preparing to shoot, still near the chin, and now he's loosed the arrow and his left hand goes to his side. When that hand lets go of the Nen arrow, it doesn't waste any more time near the chin. He relaxes it immediately into the same open position we saw before. So, now we're back to chapter 413, right? And in this panel, at this moment, when Halkenburg thinks that an arrow has already been shot at his brother Benjamin, I put it to you that Halkenburg has not yet fired Les Dissonances. The left hand is still right there at the chin, it's the ready to shoot position. And he is tied up, but his arms are pretty free, so that left arm is ready to go out and to the side upon loosing the arrow. It hasn't. Therefore, this arrow we see on the next page is not heading to Ben, but to someone else. He's thinking about Big Bro Ben as someone he doesn't need to shoot, because Ben's already got something coming to him. In that case, what is the arrow that's been shot at Ben? I have to think it's the assassination plot that Halkenburg has either learned about from or cooked up with his mother Unma over the phone, in which Furykov poisons Ben with the smuggled TSK-17. And indeed, that arrow was fired almost exactly 6 hours ago, based on the fact that Ben is about to show symptoms. The timing is relevant, so we'll put a pin in that, but let's stay on Halkenburg for a second. We know he wants to test a hypothesis about his ability, and Ben would be the sensible target if not for the prior existence of this other arrow, i.e. poison. So I think we're solid on the idea that he wants to test it out on a prince. More than just knowing if it works, yes or no, he probably wants to know whether the spirit beast swaps with the soul, or what ends up happening with that. And ideally it should be a prince who's important and powerful enough to swing the war in his favor if the swap does end up working. It should also be a prince who's not going to die immediately when Benjamin declares special martial law, since Halkenburg knows that that's coming up any minute. That would be a complete disaster if Halkenburg happened to roll himself as the swapper again, hitting the 1 in 14. And it'll be easiest if it's a prince that Hulk can hit directly from room 1009 without having to do some kind of trick shot through a bunch of intermediate rooms. So, all of that in mind, who's the lucky target of Les Dissonances? I kind of like 7th Prince Luzerus for it. First off, there's a strong possibility that Halkenburg nailed this guard named Rice in Luzerus' room when Sumidori in Shikaku shot himself. Halkenburg knew someone would be at the intercom, so it's an easy shot. There was a rumbling just before this. It's a good guess that there's a Halkenburg supporter in Rice's body right now. So that means Halkenburg can be supplied with info on the position of Luzerus at any given time. And since it's right next door, there's not much chance of the arrow being intercepted. No trick shot required. Luzerus isn't the most powerful prince in the war, but he is the benefactor of the Char Mafia family, and with special martial law about to be declared, Luzerus has the special ability to escape from Tier 1 through Broccoli's private quarters, just like how Zhonglei can escape Tier 1 through Unyur's private quarters. And in fact, Luzerus is mentioned with Zhonglei in Chapter 410 as 2 of the princes that Benjamin hasn't been able to find. Having a subordinate positioned to affect things on the lower tiers may even be necessary for Halkenburg's plan, if, like Kurapika, he's thinking about inciting riots down below in response to the special martial law. Overall, Luzerus is a great choice, unless you happen to know that Kaiser and Melody are planning his imminent death. And this is where I'm going to leave Halkenburg for this chapter. From the position of his hands in this one panel, I deduce that he has not yet fired his bow at the moment, and so the arrow that's already been shot at Ben is none other than the poison plot, which we'll get to in a moment. And so, instead of shooting at Ben, I suspect that Halkenburg has shot at Luzerus, both to test the limits of his ability and to put a loyal supporter, or himself, in a position to shake things up on the lower decks, after successfully escaping Benjamin's purge. This whole chain of reasoning could snap if it turns out that Halkenburg just kept his hands in the ready-to-fire position after firing this time, breaking a doubly established precedent. And in that case, I'll look pretty silly, but it's never stopped me before. I'm putting my money down that this detail matters and that Togashi wanted me to spot it. I'm with Togashi all the way, everything he does is deliberate, and he never makes mistakes. That's what I choose to assume. Now that I've taken my big swing for the week, let's move on to the meat of the chapter, which is the poison plot, starring our main man Furykov. He identifies himself as one of Beyond Netero's tasty snackifices, and tells us that the poisoning was ordered by Queen Unma, who is supposedly in communication with Beyond, such that she can tell Beyond to activate the curse if her orders aren't obeyed. And of course he's got his whole song and dance about how he's played along only to help Benjamin out, since dying this way will activate his spirit beast's power and turn him into a god, whereas getting cursed might mess things up somehow. Furykov also claims that if Ben dies, whichever curse baby was assigned to him will have their curse rebound to themselves, killing them immediately. But if this is him, he has nobly accepted this fate for the good of the nation. There's a lot to pick apart in this story, but let's go back to the pin we stuck in the timing issue. In Chapter 413, Benjamin notices symptoms, talks to Furykov, makes his plan, and we end the chapter 15 minutes before the declaration of special martial law on Thursday afternoon. So, with the 6-hour incubation period, we can estimate that Ben was poisoned something like 6.5 hours before SML, depending on exactly how long good old Ben stopped to think things through. Probably not that long. Now let's turn back to Chapter 412, which says it takes place 5 hours before SML. And at the end of this chapter, we have Cleopatra's visit to Beyond, during which all kinds of coded messages may have been passed back and forth. In fact, beyond passing coded messages was practically the first thing Karapika thought about when Longi revealed the existence of the curse babies back in 401. So consider the possible timeline. Furykov poisons Ben, tells Unma about it, and then Unma gives the word to Beyond via Cleopatra and possibly receives follow-up instructions at the same time. Unma got the phone call from Halkenburg in Balsamico's body yesterday, on Wednesday, so that's when they schemed up their assassination plan. And then she must have given Furykov his instructions sometime Wednesday evening. The story all makes sense, until we consider that Beyond was the one who requested the meeting with Cleopatra, and he did so on Tuesday afternoon, before the Halkenburg-Unma phone call even happened. Was it just luck that he arranged an opportunity to pass messages with his co-conspirator Unma right before Halkenburg gave Unma a reason to take action? If it is a coincidence, it's a huge one, because Halkenburg has spent most of the Succession War so far not wanting to fight in the Succession War. Nobody could really predict in advance how many days it would take him to join the war properly. And until he did, Unma didn't have much reason to do anything, since Halkenburg seems to be her pick to win. The incredible good luck of Beyond arranging this communication with Unma before Unma knew she would want it is not the only thing we should raise our eyebrows at. As I mentioned in last week's video, Beyond passed Karapika's lie detector test while saying he didn't plan on doing anything during the 2 months of the Succession War. A pre-arranged scheme with Unma to remote detonate his curse babies when she gives him the word would definitely constitute a plan to actively interfere in the war, which is why my guess has been that the curse babies are on automatic. Their targets and conditions for activation were set right after they were born, and so Beyond can honestly say he's not going to lift a finger. Yet in Furykov's telling, Unma has threatened him with passing a note to Beyond so he'll remote activate the curse, and kill Furykov if he doesn't follow orders. So maybe Beyond can lie in a way that cheats Karapika's chain, or maybe Beyond lied to Unma about how his curse babies work, or Unma lied to Furykov, or Furykov is lying to Benjamin. And that's what we're all thinking about, right? I mean, it's too obvious. Furykov not only fatally poisoned Ben, he's now told him a story that's motivated him to go ahead with the special martial law, and take down as many princes as he can before he dies. Notice that this is the absolute best case scenario for someone like Halkenburg. It knocks out the strongest prince, but also probably knocks out a lot of the weaker princes without Halkenburg having to get his own hands dirty. Ben is motivated because he thinks he can combine his Nen ability with his spirit beasts to become some kind of god of Kakin succession. Maybe his spirit beast will absorb him upon death and then be reassigned to his firstborn son, who would become king and then ultimately die and also be absorbed by the beast. So the Benjamin beast is absorbing each generation and getting stronger and guiding his bloodline to world domination. It's hard to guess more precisely than that, since we haven't been told the exact ability of Ben's spirit beast. But that very fact is the heart of the matter. We have not gotten a definitive out-of-character explanation for the beast. We only know that Ben thinks he knows what it does because Furykov told him about it. Now, I can believe that Ben, the first prince, believes strongly in the inheritance of the firstborn. So, just as Kacho's beast survived her and is now protecting Fugetsu, maybe Ben's beast will survive him and protect Ben's illegitimate firstborn child. It sounds believable. But that part about absorbing Ben into itself, or whatever variation on that idea that Ben is now betting on, Furykov could have made it up. Furykov could have made up anything he wanted, since it's his ability that gained the info. In this scene, Ben is desperate. He knows he's going to die very soon, and then he's told a story about it all working out and him living forever, actually. Obviously, he is desperate to believe it, and he does believe it. But we should be more skeptical than Ben when someone tells us exactly what we want to hear. That's how you get scammed, because if you really want to believe something is true, sometimes you turn your brain off and stop asking questions. Here's one question Ben should probably ask. If the non-cursed death of a prince causes the immediate rebound of the curse onto the curse baby, why haven't the 3 curse babies assigned to Mimosa, Sale Sale, and Kacho suffered this rebound? Maybe they have, and we just didn't see it. But a lot of these curse babies are on the Black Whale, and the one targeting Sale Sale would be old enough to be someone's bodyguard. If your target dying before you makes your neck explode, we'd expect to have seen an exploded neck by now. Another question. Furykov says the curse will activate upon his death, so he's saying any curse baby's curse will trigger if they happen to die in some unrelated way. Isn't that risky? What if any one of these curse babies died years before the war ever began, just by accident or illness or something? then the curse would activate and take out a prince early, thereby giving the whole game away if Nasubi realized what happened to his child. This is very risky. And I know that risky stuff powers up the Nen and all that, thank you Kurapika, but Furykov could have easily slipped this in to make sure Ben doesn't kill him. As long as he's afraid of the curse activating on death, he won't, for example, kill Furykov to see if Benjamin Baton activates, thereby proving that Furykov was actually loyal and giving Ben direct access to the info about his own spirit beast. That would all be a very smart play from Ben if it weren't for this automatic activation idea which Furykov put in his head. And one more big question while we're at it. So these curses can't be exercised, they work at any range, they can't be resisted by the target prince, and they activate automatically on death or whenever Beyond wants. If all of this is true and Beyond's got the kill switch for every prince at his fingertips, why is he dragging things out? For that matter, if he wanted to keep things automatic, why didn't he set all his curses to activate 10 seconds after the start of the Succession War, so his child would win immediately? Or, failing that, if Furykov's story is true and Unma's colluding with Beyond and she can tell him to activate curses at will, why didn't she just have him curse Ben instead of messing around with TSK-17? Ben should be able to sense that something doesn't add up here, and that there's something about Beyond's curse, the restrictions and conditions and mechanics of it, that has not been explained. But there's no time to worry about things making sense or not, he's got siblings to murder. So it's safe to say that I doubt parts of Furykov's story, since they're so convenient for him and so perfectly tuned to what Benjamin wants to hear. But we should at least consider the other option. Maybe it's all true, or at least it's true according to Furykov's understanding. Like I mentioned earlier, Unma might have told Furykov a fake version of how the curses work, and he's just passing that on. Maybe Ben's spirit beast works exactly like Furykov told him it does, and Furykov has kept that a secret from Unma because he's really on Ben's side and wants him to achieve godhood. By the way, if it's all true, then Ben should probably leave Furykov out of the prince-killing detail. It'd feel pretty stupid if Furykov got blasted by Tyson's spirit beast or something, and then the automatic curse killed him. Although that is one way for Tyson to save the day here, so don't rule it out. But okay, the thing is, if Furykov is being honest about the beast's ability, and thus the poisoning really was meant to help Ben, that can only ever come into play if Ben were to succeed in killing everyone. Like, if Furykov is loyal and the god plan is real, any prince can thwart that plan by surviving until Ben dies to the poison. As long as any of them escape the purge and stay in the game, Ben can't win the war and his child can't succeed him as king. So all the potential of his baton-passing dynasty is wasted when he dies. If Furykov is not loyal and the god plan is fake, the other princes still just have to survive until Ben dies to the poison. It's the exact same thing. The god plan is good for Ben's morale, and it stopped him from killing Furykov, and got him to stop asking questions pretty quickly and get onto the purge, but that's about all it does. And as readers, we know that Ben isn't going to succeed at killing everyone and ending the war, so from our point of view, the stakes of this question are pretty low. If he wins, does he become immortal or not? Well, he's not going to win. So with that in mind, I both think and hope that Furykov is lying, just so that when Ben dies, Furykov won't die with him to this curse rebound thing. I hope the curse rebound is made up, or that Furykov's target is a different prince entirely. I want this guy to stick around. Furykov is funny, he has a very expressive face, and Kurapika always needs teaching assistants at the Nen class. So, for the big question about whether Furykov is lying, I lean yes, but I don't think it matters very much for anyone except Furykov. Now let's finally get to the start of Ben's purge, which he's beginning personally with Camilla and Serednik. We know from chapter 410 that he makes it through these encounters and heads downstairs to tier 2, so neither Camilla nor Serednik kills him on the spot. As for Serednik, it's the easiest guess in the world to say that Ben pulls a Theta and thinks he killed him as a result of Serednik's ability. So Ben rips Serednik in half and leaves in a hurry. Unbeknownst to him, Serednik's completely fine. But what about the confrontation with Camilla? Well, Ben knows how the cat works now, so she should be pretty easy to kill. One idea is to have a subordinate shoot Camilla and then immediately kill the subordinate. The cat has no valid target, the resurrection fails, the end. Or, to refine the idea, you could have a subordinate use a fast-acting poison on Camilla and then kill the subordinate before Camilla even dies, so there's no possible window where there is a valid target. As long as you have a disposable guard willing to follow your orders, you're in business. I even had the idea that Furykov could be this disposable guard, either out of real loyalty or because Ben wants to test his loyalty, But he couldn't do it because of this automatic curse thing that Ben believes in. He could have Furykov hit Camilla with the TSK-17 and then keep him alive until the curse rebound gets him, so Ben doesn't get cursed and Camilla's cat still has no target because she'll die after Furykov and Ben. But this also doesn't work because Ben needs all the princes dead before he dies. Otherwise the succession war isn't over. So, sorry Furykov, it doesn't look like you're up for the job of taking out Camilla. But Ben has plenty of other options. And I have to say, I don't see a way out of this for Cammy, unless her spirit beast really overperforms in her defense. So I think I do expect her to die in just a minute here. But that would leave her entire faction of have-nots stranded in the story with no prince to support. This is a good time to remind ourselves that the have-nots, in addition to having a personalized curse aimed at every other prince, also have a Nen exorcist in their ranks named Umanma. Her ability makes her an incredibly valuable bargaining chip for whoever controls the have-nots upon Camilla's death, probably her mother Dwazil. Karabaga in particular is desperate to find a Nen exorcist right now, and I don't think we know of any others yet. So if the rather inflexible Camilla is out of the picture, Dwazil suddenly has a lot of power at her disposal with which to protect her prince of choice, curse everyone else to death, or cut some kind of deal with Karabaga by offering him access to a Nen exorcism. We are back on Dwazil watch, people. Stay alert. And finally, we have to talk about Benjamin's orders to his private army. He tells them to execute everyone else's guards on sight while collecting the princes, but not to mess with members of the Hunter Association. And by the time he heads down to the Justice Bureau on Tier 2 in Chapter 410, he seems to think he's got only 4 princes left to grab. Zhonglei and Luzerus, who've gone missing, probably Fugetsu because she's here in the Justice Bureau, and one other prince. So he seems to think the roundup of princes and mass execution of guards went pretty well overall. As far as he's aware, he's got most of the princes held as hostages in his Grand Hall, and he's using them as leverage to try and make the Justice Bureau recognize his authority. The issue here is the Hunter Association members. I don't think Bisky or Hansa would allow Vergay and the other guards in their room to be executed right in front of them. They would put up a fight. Maybe Mariam is the 4th missing prince, and so there was no confrontation there because of Mariam's pocket dimension. But what about Tyson's room? Did Izunavi and Giuliano stand by and allow all the other guards in there to be killed? That's also hard to imagine. I don't think all these association members have been killed off while resisting, because that would be a real downer, but I think they would resist, so it's hard to picture how this went down. Actually, now that I think of it, this execution order applies to the have-nots, who are the guards of Prince Camilla. I definitely don't want them all knocked out of the story. I just got done talking about how important they might be going forward. So I'm gonna put a big question mark next to this order. I don't want to think this many characters are about to die, but Chapter 410 Ben is not thinking about how everything went wrong and his orders weren't carried out, so it might get pretty ugly. Or all these guards might be very good at hiding. You know, Ben's soldiers come into the room, they grab the prince, they exchange respectful nods with the association members that they're not supposed to kill, and they don't check under the couch, where all the other guards have squirreled themselves away. Something like that could work. We'll have to wait and see. There's probably more to say. I didn't even touch on Baby Mina here, but this video is too long as it is, so for now, that's all from me. I want to thank you for all the comments last week theorizing about this panel from 358. I've got some more thoughts about it now, but they don't fit in this video. Stay tuned for more Silent Majority ideas in future vids, unless the next chapter just reveals the user outright, which could always happen. Hit me with some more comments this week. What did you think of my Halkenburg theory? Am I right about everything, or did he actually fire the arrow at Ben? And if so, did it just do nothing? Did it hit someone else instead? What's going on there? Okay, thank you all for watching. Keep your fingers crossed for this guy to survive martial law, and I'll see you next time.